You, without getting crass, because I never think it's okay to just straight point blank, how much money do you make?
Sure.
I've been asking author that, but I know that you had published a post on Hugh Howey's site back in, I think, 2014, 2015, somewhere in there, where you said that at one point, I think you were making around $3,000 a month from your fiction. Is that
Yeah.
still holding true, or is that kind of up and down?
Yeah, so that was summer of 2015, and I wrote him a letter just because, an email, just because I hadn't seen a lot of examples of middle grade. And I just wanted to tell him that, for the previous 2 or 3 months, I had been making, 2 to 3 thousand bucks. And I just wanted him to know it was possible. And then he said, "Hey, do you think you could, think we could post this as a blog post?" And I said, "Sure." So that's where that came from. Now, at that time, I also had some guesses as to what I thought might happen. I thought maybe I had been lucky, right? Maybe I had just hit a good patch, which happens. And I also didn't know what was going to happen to Amazon or Kindle Unlimited. It just so happened that I think that month or later that month was the first new iteration of Kindle Unlimited. And as soon as that first change happened, my income dramatically dropped. So pre that first Kindle Unlimited, I was looking, I was like, whoa, okay, this is working. And if I just add books, this is going to work even better. Well, again, I was new, and then you realize quickly that's not exactly how this works. Especially in the indie space, we're sort of always reacting to Amazon or other bookstores or booksellers and what they're doing or what's working and what's not. So I would say that I have never found a way to make a full-time living. The money's gone up and down. I keep trying to find a way to make a full-time living. And that's kind of the way I would say it. Yeah. So never quite found that sweet spot to make that full-time living. I always make money. It's money that's helpful, but I've usually been the type that I'm kind of usually reinvesting all that money back in the business, trying new books, trying advertising, trying to figure out that right mix of things that's going to kind of make it pop for me. And I'm still searching. Haven't quite found it yet.
Well, I've got a lot of questions on the back of that. I'm gonna keep you busy all day, and I apologize to esteemed audience. I am just hopefully getting over a case of Captain Trips, the super death flu. So if I cough, I'm gonna try very hard not to cough. You might notice that my usual Kermit-like voice is a little bit more Tom Waits-like on this particular episode. My apologies. So when we're talking about things that you have had success with, how many books have you found that you need to publish in order to be successful, in order to get some traction on Amazon and elsewhere? And are you wide? Are you Amazon exclusive?
I am Amazon exclusive, except for a couple books in my Project Gemini series, which I went wide with just so I could offer a couple of them free in an attempt to try and get people into the series. So mostly I've always been with Amazon exclusive. The real answer is I don't know the answer to this question. Everybody who asks me about middle grade, I mean, it's a real challenge. It's just so different than adult genre fiction for the obvious reasons. Everybody who writes middle grade understands why. The person who is reading romance or thrillers or cozy mysteries, they are the person choosing those things. And if they are a power reader or a whale reader, as some people call them, then if you just meet certain expectations, they oftentimes will give you a shot. Middle grade, and it's a totally different deal. You have kids who oftentimes want to make their own decisions, but they oftentimes don't have the ability to purchase books. So it's a totally different landscape. But within that, if you think about kind of the typical Barnes and Noble way of selecting youth readers away from YA, they normally call like ages 7 to 12. And to call middle grade 7 to 12 isn't real truthful. Actually, the way Barnes and Noble does it is a little bit more truthful. Youth readers, 7 to 12. What I have personally found, and the advice I normally give people who are indie, is you're going to have more luck if you go after the younger segment of the youth readers rather than the older segment of the youth readers. So the older segment of the youth readers would be ages 10, 11, 12. That's really classic middle grade. But I think that's the hardest group to go after effectively via Amazon, via indie, because I think that is where the bookstore and library infrastructure is strongest. I think they are most well suited to get books in the hands of that age group. Now, what I think is a little different about the ages 7, 8, 9, and even 10, there's some overlap there, is I think you now have an age group of kids who the parents are oftentimes not only buying, but the parents have quite a bit of say in choosing those books as well. This is my theory. And I think that a lot of times, if you meet the expectation of the parents effectively, that I think they are the ones who might give your book a shot for their kids. Because that's an age group where parents just want kids to read, right? I just want to get them reading. I just want to get them reading. And at age 10, 11, 12, either the kid is making their own decision and telling mom and dad what to get for them, or many times the kid is just off to video games instead. So I think in terms of how many books, I don't know. In terms of what age group of readers, I think I do sort of know. And I think it's that 8, 9, 10.
And so what is just because their parents are a little bit more willing to take a chance on a shorter ebook that's available? Is it the kids themselves have a little bit more access to the Kindles when they're not locked into the reading list and things through school?
Maybe some of that. I mostly think it's that parents are saying to themselves, I just want Johnny to read. I just want Mary to read. And, I either know she likes this and there's 10 more in the series, so I'm going to get more. Or I think this would be the kind of book they'd like. And it kind of meets my expectations of what a reluctant reader might want or something like that. That seems to be what does well. The other thing I would say is sometimes you'll see an indie do really well in middle grade who targets the older middle grade, especially if it has some sort of crossover appeal to adults. So I think of people who have done well writing middle grade fantasies. Now, lots of people have written middle grade fantasies. Most of them don't do well. But you at least have a chance there. I think if you kind of cross over to that adult fantasy audience, that may catch a little bit of that. So I think that's another plausible way through.
One nice thing I've got going for me, and I've talked about this before. I'm very excited about my passionate middle grade readers. There are not as many as there are for the horror series, but they're there. They're passionate. They're there for Banneker. They send me photos of themselves dressed as the character. But then what cracks me up is some of the folks that read the Book of David all together now, the horror stories, the really nasty stuff, will run out of those, and then they'll, that Banneker Bones book is free, and then they'll send me an email, and they don't want to know about horror. They're like, when's the next Banneker coming? Like, great, I'm getting the adult readers. I'll take them. I'm happy to have you all.
That is fantastic. That means you can write.
Theoretically. If I can, it hasn't stopped me.